you all probably already have some questions. You probably will, during the webinar, you might have some additional questions that might come up. Because of the sheer volume of people that we have on the calls, on the webinars, excuse me, it will be very difficult for me to answer all questions that might come up. We'll be here all day. And so the best way that I am going to tackle your questions and your concerns is I'm going to ask you to send me an email of any questions or concerns that you might have based upon what I'm presenting on or as it's applicable to your agency. I'm going to compile all of your questions and create an FAQ. And then I'm also going to take I'm recording all of my webinars for this week, and I'm going to pick the best one that I feel like gives the best information, and then I'm going to have that webinar as well as the FAQ, the Frequently Asked Questions document, available on the Georgia Department of Community Affairs HMIS page. And what I'm going to do, and that won't be, I'm going to compile all that stuff this week and have it posted on the website by Monday. And so I'm going to send out an email to all of the email addresses that registered for the webinar. I'm going to send out an email with the link to that particular page, so that way you won't have to go through and dump the dive through the DCA website. And so if you could send over any questions that you might have, concerns that you might have, even if there are things that you already know the answer to but you think would be important for others to know, then please send that over, and I will make certain that it's included. I will respond back with an answer, and then I'll make certain that I'll add it to the list. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. In preparing for a data migration from the Compass Road system to Client Track, we want to make certain that all of your data is current and up to date. And when I say all of your data, I'm talking about in terms of your agency configuration, as well as your client records, especially your current clients. And when I say current clients, I'm not just talking about who's walking in the door today, but I'm talking about all clients that would need to be included in any of your federal reporting. So some of us might have a CAPER due next month, and so you want to make certain that not only are your current clients that you're serving right now, but any of those clients that will be included in that report you want to make certain that you go through, run your report, make certain that the data is accurate, that is complete, and you don't have any missing information and minimal don't know or refuse responses. The same way if it's any of the other federal reports. I know we might have some runaway and homeless youth individuals on the call, as well as SSVF, have any of the other programs that are requiring that you all have some upcoming reports that'll be due soon. You want to make certain that you're factoring in your entire reporting period when we're talking about current clients. So that is really, I can't give you a date to say, well, from this date to this date, you want to make certain that your clients are reflective on the system and everything is good. You will best know which clients you need to be looking at and which reporting period you need to use. We're not requiring that you clean up data for 7 years. That's a lot. We recognize that that's a lot. And for some of them, you don't have that information. Again, for 7 years ago, some of the data standards that are on the system now didn't exist. And so we recognize that, and we feel that the best way for us to migrate our information over is to clean up current for reporting purposes, and then we'll migrate everything over, and then your COCs as well as the team over here at the team over here at DTA will take the time and work with you in terms of getting that data cleaned, focusing on data cleaning and data correctness. So the very first slide that we see on the presentation is talking about making certain that your agency information is set up properly. We're not going to be reaching out to your agency directly, every agency that's currently on the system. We're not going to be reaching out to you individually and saying, hey, can you please fill out this paperwork and then get it back to us with your agency name, your address, and all of that. What we're going to do is we're going to pull this information out of Compass Road. And so what needs to happen is we need you to make certain that your agency name is reflective with what your agency name actually is. If you've had any name changes or updates and it's not reflective on the Compass Road system, we're asking you to please reach out to the Pathway Support Team at support@pcni.org, and it's on the screen, because if you notice on the screenshot that I have here, that is not a fillable field. So you can't change that. You'll need to reach out to them to give them your updated name so they can go in and make that change. But the other information like your address, city, state, zip code, your mailing address, phone numbers, directors' names, contact emails, all of that information is information that you can update yourself. For some of you all, you have addresses listed from 5 years ago, and you have moved from that location 2 or 3 times. Also, your directors have changed, your contact emails have changed, so just make certain that all of this information is accurate, current, and that it is reflective of what's going on with your agency today. I recognize that we've had some changes. We're not concerned with what you used to have. We're more concerned with what you have moving forward so that what we set up on the new system is accurate, and we won't have to waste a lot of time having to go back and fix a lot of agency names and contact information for you all. And on that same line, when we're talking about agency configuration, you also want to make certain that all of your user accounts are active and that the information that's listed for each of your user accounts is complete. Now, for the column that says last training date, you don't need to worry about that. That information will not be coming over, but we do need to make certain that that the actual user's name is correct, that there is a phone number, as well as a contact email address available. If you notice on the screenshot that I have on the slide, we have 2 individuals that are currently listed on my user list for my agency. One of them is active with the password that needs to be reset, but the one at the bottom, the data cleaning one, is inactive. And so it's up to my agency administrators to decide if this particular individual, their account is just inactive because they didn't log in a timely manner, but they will be working with this agency, then don't delete that record. Don't delete that user account. But if it's but if it's an individual that is no longer employed with the company, there's no plan of that person returning, then you want to go ahead and hit the trash can, because we don't want to move any user accounts over that are not going to be active on the new system within your agency. Also, and this is just because I know have gotten this question on every webinar, any information that the person, if you've seen this person, if you've identified that this person is no longer going to return and you're going to delete this particular user account, their information that was saved on the system does not go away. It is retained. So service transactions, project records, case notes, anything that they've done on the system will be retained within your agency, so you don't have to worry about that either. Next, we encourage you all to identify an agency migration coordinator. And this is a nice fancy title, but it really is just someone that's in your office or within your agency that is familiar with the Compass Rose system, that typically this particular person would be your agency administrator or one of your agency administrators within your agency, because it'll need to be someone that can make certain that your agency configuration is caught up and up to date. It'll also need to be someone that is aware of your timelines within your agency, that can help you all develop a data accuracy timeline. The plan is to be off of the Compass Rose system at the end of the year, 12/31/2016. And so it is each individual agency's responsibility to make certain that your data is accurate. And I keep saying it over and over again. And if you know me, you know I'm the data girl. I'm always asking for clean data, good data. And so it's you all's responsibility to make certain that you identify what reporting you have coming up and which clients we need to be looking at in terms of correcting that data, making certain that it looks good by running different reports to make certain that it's accurate, current, up to date, without missing information. Next, we want that particular person to identify exactly what you are capturing on the system. And this is very important because based upon what your individual agency is capturing on the system, this will let your agency know, as well as potentially your COC know, if additional information needs to be considered as part of the migration. It probably won't be a part of the first run, but it might be a part of an additional run migration, but this will be something that you'll need to discuss with your COC. So the information that will definitely be transitioned or migrated from the Compass Rose system to the new system will be your client records, project records, service transactions, and case notes. I'm going to repeat that. So the client records that are attached to project records, that means project enrollment and project discharge, service transactions, or as we know, services, case notes, and when I say client, excuse me, when I say client records, I'm referring to everything that is HUD required. So all of those data elements will be moving over. All of the additional information when you're enrolling into a project and discharging, the additional information that you complete, like the financial information, non-cash benefits, health insurance, special needs, all of that information will be a part of the migration. But if your agency is capturing additional things like custom fields, or you created your own special assessments within your agency, things like that that are not HUD required, they don't show up on any of the major federal reporting, then you'll want to figure out a plan in terms of running reports to be able to get that information out. I strongly encourage you, if it's a whole lot and you feel like your continuum would be able to assist you in getting that information migrated over, I mean, it stands reason that you can reach out to them and say, hey, this is what we're recording. Is it possible to get this migrated? And then you'll have to have discussion with them about that. Because depending upon what it is, it might require extra work from the other team, and it might require extra funding to be able to support that migration. But as I mentioned, you can run most things out of the Compass Road system yourself. So if it's outside of the things that I said definitely will be a part of the migration, you can definitely run some reports, and we'll go into that in a later slide of some reports that I suggest. Also, if you have any questions about, well, my agency is capturing this, this, and this, how can I get this out of the system? You can send me an email, and I will help you out with that. It might be a case where it's just a simple report that I can tell you how to run, or it might be a situation where we might need to reach out to the Compass Road team, the support team over there, and get the assistance team to run it for you. But we just need to, one, I need you to identify what that is, and two, to send me an email, and then we can go from there. The reporting period that we will be capturing data for, excuse me, and I think I mentioned it earlier, we'll be looking at and migrating over 7 years of data. So if you need any of your data out of the system that is outside of the client records that are attached to projects, service transactions, case notes, then you want to make certain that you are figuring out a plan in terms of getting that information out. Again, please send me an email. Even if you don't know if you need to send it over to your COC, you can send it to me directly, and then I will take a look at it. And if it's something that you need to chime in and get some assistance from your COC, then I would definitely send that right back to you and encourage you to reach out to whoever that particular individual is to best assist you with getting ready for the migration. As we're talking about agency setup and updates, you want to make certain that your project list is reflective of the projects that need to be migrated over. When I say this, I don't want you all to immediately go and log into the system if you're the agency administrator and get to deleting projects, because we don't use this anymore, so I want to delete it. Don't do that. Please don't do that. Also, don't delete any projects that have clients currently enrolled in them. It's very difficult. It's a little bit difficult to find client records when you've deleted the project record, the project from the agency project maintenance page. In addition to that, and I put a note down at the bottom of the slide, there are some of your projects that even though your agency is no longer receiving that funding or your agency is no longer operating this particular project, but it will affect, if you eliminate that project record, it could potentially affect your community or COC reporting. So before deleting anything, especially if it's housing projects, that means homeless prevention, rapid rehousing, emergency shelter, transitional housing, some of the street outreach projects that are connected to federal funding, any of those projects, before you delete any project that currently has clients enrolled, please reach out to your COC first to find out if eliminating that project will impact their reporting. If not, and they say go ahead, then great, you can hit the trash can. But first get the sign off from them that they don't need that for a community, for COC or community reporting. For projects that are inactive, and this is just a good rule of thumb to have within your agency, It's an indicator to let other users within your agency know, hey, we're no longer using this project, but we want to retain the project on the system because we need it for historical data for reporting. Is either putting an X, 2 X's in front of the project name, and you can do that by simply clicking the pen and pad, which will allow you to edit that record. You can put 2 X's in front, and then we have some other individuals that put the word inactive in front of it. Just an indicator to let you know that. Also, it's an indicator for us as we're migrating projects over to the new system. It's an indicator to us that this particular project is an inactive project. And so just make certain that you kind of follow these guidelines. Again, I'm repeating. Please don't delete any projects that have data in them without first touching base with your COC to make certain that whatever you do will not impact any community or COC reporting. Now, if your agency, let's say for instance, you're the agency administrator, you created a project and you all never used it because you decided that you realized that you didn't need to do project enrollment in order to give a service transaction, something like that has no data in it, then yes, of course, you can go ahead and delete that because it won't impact anybody because it didn't have anything in it. But a good rule of thumb is just to reach out to your COCs, make certain that it's not anything that will impact their reporting or any reporting that you might have within your agency, and then move forward. If you have any questions about that, you can definitely feel free to send me an email as well, and I will help you out to identify that information as well. Aside from deleting projects, I do encourage you to edit your projects. So for some of you all, you've had project name changes. Your bed and unit inventory hasn't been updated since it was first created years ago. And we had added something, the Compass Road system had an addition that was put on the system maybe about a year ago, where it includes grant information. This is where you would identify your grant funding source, whether or not it's COC funding that supports that supports this project, or if it's ESG, SSVF, VASH, whatever the case may be. So you just want to make certain that you edit the project, go in. If nothing needs to be changed on the initial page, your name change is fine. All of the things that are listed there on the first page is fine. Just click Save. It'll take you to the next screen, which will be the bed and unit inventory, if it's the housing program that has beds. On that, you just want to make certain that what's showing up is accurate based upon your projects based upon your beds within your agency, and just keep clicking through till you get to the very end. You'll know you've gotten to the end when you get back to the summary page. Okay, we talked about how to make certain that your agency configuration is up to date and current. So now let's talk about your current clients. So as I mentioned, it's up to you all to identify your funding sources as well as your funding requirements in terms of who needs to be updated. But the best way and the quickest way, well, I'm not going to say the best way, the quickest way to identify who all is enrolled in your project is by simply logging into the Compass Road system. It'll immediately take you to the client search page. You'll click Advanced Search, and then down at the bottom where it says Project Name Type Site, you click the drop-down arrow and select your project name, and then click Search. This will give you a listing of all of your currently enrolled clients. The best way to identify if you have clients that either are no longer in the project and they should be, or they were never enrolled in the project, is by taking a look at this list. If I know that this family that's on my example right now, Demo's child and Demo's client, if I know that they have a Demo husband and he is not enrolled in my project, then I know one of two things has happened. Either he never was enrolled in the project and I need to go in and enroll him, or he was discharged. And so you need to figure out who all should be in the project, make certain that you make different efforts depending upon what's going on with that record and get them enrolled. And so, as I mentioned, if someone is missing, then you know you need to enroll them. If everybody is listed as they should be, great, you can move forward. And if your agency, because we do have some agencies that have projects that have more than 100 people, more than 100 clients enrolled in it, when you try to do this process, it will give you an error message saying you need to narrow down your search results. And I'll give you, and I think it's 2 slides from now, give you an idea of a report that you can run that will give you a listing of all of the clients that you currently have enrolled in your project, and you can use that particular tool to be able to identify if everyone is enrolled And if there are people that are enrolled that need to be discharged, you'll be able to identify it on that report, as well as if you have people listed but you're missing some people, you'll be able to identify from that report as well. Using the same process by logging into the Compass Road system, searching using the project name at the bottom, this will help you to identify if there's any people that need to be discharged. So, for instance, if I know that my DCA ESG Rapid Rehousing Program should no longer have anybody enrolled in the project, if I use the search process that I just mentioned, and I have this family still enrolled, then that immediately tells me that I need to discharge this family. So I highlighted over in the far right the discharge links, and so you would just click that discharge hyperlink on that head of household and go through the screens and use the family discharge to discharge the entire family from the project. And I've been talking about over and over again about you want to make sure that you're monitoring your current clients and current client activity. A good way of being able to identify what's going on with your records and if the information is good and clean and all of that is by running some of the suggested reports down at the bottom. Your current program roster, and this is the report that I was mentioning, if you serve more than 100 clients at a time with one particular project, if you use the quick run like I gave, like from the previous slides, you won't be able to get to see those clients, and it'll ask you to narrow your search results down. You can run this current program roster. It's a summary report. If you have access to reports, you just go to summary, click program, and then it'll be the current program roster, and you'll just run that. And the report will yield exactly what's in the name, a listing of your current clients that are enrolled in the program. So if you have individuals that were discharged, and they will not show up on that list because they're not current. Make sense? Perfect. The next report is your program enrollment and discharge export. And this is a report that we call the data dump. It literally will give you most information that you capture on your client records as you're enrolling clients into projects, and if you discharge them, it'll give you that information as well. So this report will give you all clients within your agency that's enrolled in a program or in a project and or discharged during the reporting period that you identify. So for a lot of us that have 10, 12, 30 projects in our agency, this is going to be a big, meaty report. Don't get discouraged. I want you to turn on your filters, filter in and out projects that you're not concerned with or you're not looking at right now, and just focus on one project at a time. You want to make certain that you don't have any missing information, and that will be indicated by blank fields on the report. But some blank fields are good fields, because if your client is still enrolled in your project and the exit date is still blank, then that's actually correct, because they have not been discharged. So if they haven't been discharged, they won't have an exit date. But this is a good report to run where you can take some time. You can go through each one of your projects, make certain that everyone is there, because I know for most of us, we have an internal system that we use, an internal listing of clients that we use. And you can definitely use the program enrollment and discharge export to kind of map and make certain that it's reflective of what you have internally with what's on the Compass Road system. For some of the information that I mentioned earlier that will not be included in the data migration, there are numerous reports, data export reports that are available. And the reason why I encourage the data export reports is because they're CSV reports, which means that if you have Microsoft Excel on your computer, it'll open it up in Excel. And that way it'll be easier to play around with, easier to filter in, filter out, sort, look for, you can do pivot tables and look for missing information, but it'll allow you an opportunity to kind of play with things and not have to look at PDF files and highlight and all of that. So some examples of some of those reports are assessment reports, client information, and the client information ones are really good because they give you all clients that received at least one service transaction during a particular time period that you select. And it'll give you additional information. So they've got some that say client information plus cash benefits, plus cash, client information plus non-cash, client information plus special needs. So it'll give you a lot of information that you might be concerned with taking a look at, as well as there's some for custom information. So any of you all that have some of the custom fields that we used prior to assessments existing. Some people are still using the custom fields. You can definitely run that data export to retrieve that information out, especially since I mentioned that information will not be a part of the migration at this time. Then you can definitely run the custom information for whatever reporting period that you want to put in there to basically keep that information in-house. As we're preparing for the data migration and moving to a new system, a lot of the functionality that is existing in our Compass Road system, we'll have to figure out how that can be translated into the new system. So as opposed to saying, well, I absolutely need to get this migrated over, then maybe it might be a situation where you might not necessarily need to migrate information over. It might be, you know, starting fresh. You might make that decision, or if it's something that you're adamant about that absolutely has to be migrated over, then we first need to identify how that would translate in a new system and what will be required. So it's not anything that can happen like overnight, but you can definitely reach out to your COC if there are things that I didn't mention that will be part of the migration that you absolutely need to get some guidance in terms of whether or not it can be migrated for a year's time or whatever. Lastly, another one of the reports is service information. So as I mentioned, service transactions will be moved over, but some people might want to have this information in-house just to have it. You can definitely run the service information reports. And there's a whole host of other data exports that are on the system that you can take a look at that might be beneficial to you all. I mentioned several times that if you have any issues, any questions as it relates to the Compass Road system, please feel free to send an email over to the support team. Their email address is support@pcni.org. I listed their contact number, but the best way to get them is by support@pcni.org. That will create a case, and so you should receive immediate response, basically letting you know that a case has been created, and they will get back to you as soon as possible. For some of us that are not in the system every day, or we might have a brain fart, and I need to discharge some people, but I cannot remember how to do family discharge, or I cannot remember how to do enrollment. As opposed to reaching out to the support team or trying to find some individual within your agency, you can go to the Pathways Training website, which is pathways.training.org, and watch any of their tutorials. They have a whole host of tutorials on the website that can walk you through it. It's a YouTube video. It takes about 5-6 minutes to walk you through it, and nobody will know that you forgot how to enroll on Compass Road. And this is my information. Again, I'm April Lockett. For any of your data migration questions, concerns, suggestions, please email me. My email address is april.lockett@dca.ga.gov. And send that on over to me. Again, I'm trying to compile an FAQ document, so it might not be questions that you have, but it might be beneficial to someone else. I strongly encourage you to send that on over to me so I can make certain that we capture that information and we're able to share that with each other. I included Jeanette's information down at the bottom because I recognize that we do have some COCs, so some COC leads that have been a part of the webinars, and if you have any high-level questions outside of some of the what do we need to move over, what report should I run, kind of questions, if it's something more high-level, and I'm sure you all already know Jeanette's email address, but I just wanted to put it down here on this slide as well. It is down there at the bottom. But for your data migration questions, concerns, suggestions, please email me. My email address is at the top. And as I mentioned, I will be sending, as soon as I finish up tomorrow with my last webinar, I'll be spending the rest of the week going through the webinars, identifying the best one with the most holistic information for our migration, and then I'll be compiling all questions and concerns that you all have emailed to me and putting it on the FAQ. Monday, I'll be sending out the email with the link to the website where you'll be able to find both the webinar recording as well as the document. So I know that this was a lot of information and you want to potentially reference it later. You will definitely be able to do that with the webinar. You can watch it again or have other individuals that were not able to join the webinars over the last couple of days. They could definitely join in. I thank you so much for your time, your attention. Please don't forget to email me your questions, concerns, or suggestions, and I wish you a happy day. Thanks so much. Bye.